Okay, so let's get cracking with our first workbook for ISIS. Okay, so as we can see here, we have our first task. It's the basic configuration files, where they've already been provided. They're either on my website or I might see if I can upload them onto YouTube as well. So you've been provided with the IPv4 addressing, so all the configurations for that are done. So there's basic connectivity between each pair of devices. So we need to implement ISIS across the multi-area network, and we need to ensure proper route exchange and design the segmentation between levels 1 and level 2 areas. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to decide what we're going to have as our levels. Now, since as CE2 is an end, it's at the end of the link, it's not linking with another area, this can be a level 1 device, and exactly the same with CE1, so that can also be a level 1 device as well. However, if we was to select PE1 as a level 1 device, then that would mean it can't form a neighborship with PE22 because that's in a different area. So we have a couple of options available. We can either set it as a level 2 device only, which is absolutely fine, or we can set it as a, leave it as default, which will be a level 1, level 2 router. Now, if we do that, and that's a normal implementation, you'll see that quite often, then what that would mean is that between CE1 and PE1, you will have both, you will have a level 1 neighborship. If we set this to level 1 anyway, that's all you'll have, but you'll still be getting like updates are still being tried to send out for level 2 towards CE1. So to try and minimize the amount of traffic, again, with this particular scenario, it's not a very big lab, but in a bigger production network, you may decide that you don't want to be propagating in additional level information just for it to be dropped on the other side. So we will set this as a level 2 router, and exactly the same here. Now, because we have PEs 22 and 23, and these are both basically ABRs, on their respective areas, we have PE22 connecting from area 1 to area 2, and PE23 connecting from area 1 to area 3. So we can set these as level 2 devices. So we'll put that as a level 2 and that as a level 2 because they're direct neighborships, i.e. towards PE1 and towards PE4, don't need to have any layer 1 information, level 1 information at all. And again, with PE4, so this link, as we know now, is going to be a level 2, but we can just do level 1 between PE4 and CE4. Okay, so let's implement that and see if we can get this up and running. Okay, so let's get rid of this and bring up the command line, which is here. All right, fantastic. Okay, so let's start on CE2. We'll work from the left and work our way across. Okay, let's go to enable mode. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get our ISIS neighborship up and running, and that's going to be on interface G2. Okay, so we need to set our address up. This is for area 2. So let's go into configuration mode, and let's do router ISIS 1, and let's do our passive interface as loopback 0. So that means while the routes for loopback 0 will be advertised, it won't attempt to form any particular sort of neighborships. Now let's do our net statements. So our net is going to be 49.000. Let me just double check. This is area 2, isn't it? Yeah, area 2. So 49.002.000.000.2.00. Okay, that's fantastic. So that's all we really need to do just to get ISIS up and running. What we need now is to add in the physical interface that's going to connect CE2 to CE1. So let's go into the interface, which is G2. Let me just move this along. Yep, G2. So interface G2. And now we can set our circuit type on here, how we actually want it. So we do ISIS circuit type, and we'll just do level 1. And now we just enable the ISIS protocol on this interface. So IP router ISIS 1. And that's it. Let's do a show run section ISIS. So as you can see here, we have for our interface, we've set it circuit type level 1, and router ISIS, we have the net statement, and then we have the S type is there as well. So everything is great. Okay, so let's now jump onto CE1 and do the same thing. We'll do the neighborship between CE1 and CE2 first. Okay, and let's go into router ISIS process ID 1, and let's do passive interface loopback 0. Okay, fantastic. All right, so what we're going to do now is add our net statement in. So let's do our net, and it's going to be 49.000.2.000.000.1.0.0. Okay, great stuff. Now, the neighborship is obviously not formed yet because we've not put the Giga interface 2 into the actual routing protocol. So that's what we're going to do next. So interface G2, ISIS circuit type, and we're going to do level 1 only for that. And now we just add the actual interface into the router protocol. So IP router ISIS process 1. Okay, so that should be all we need, and there we go. We see our adjacency has now come up, so that's fantastic. We can do show IP route ISIS, and we can see that it's learnt the loop back here from CE2, so that's good. So we have our first neighborship up. We'll jump along now to the next device, and sorry, to the next neighborship, which is on gig 1, and we'll get that up and running as well. So let's go into interface gig 1, and let's do our IS circuit type. And we're going to do level 1. And let's put this into the ISIS routing protocol. So IP router ISIS process 1. Okay. So that is now CE1 done. So that's fine. So now let's jump on to PE1, which is our iOS XR device. Okay, so let's jump onto that. So, alright, and let's jump into a configuration mode. And let's sit there now and get ISIS running on this. So let's do router ISIS 1. Okay, let's do our net statement. So it's going to be 49.000.2.000.000. Actually it's do 11.00. Okay, so that's our net statement. That's fine. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to add in the IPv4 address family as well. So address family IPv4 unicast. So we need to globally activate it, and let's do our interface loopback 0, and we'll set that to passive. And we also need to add the interface as well into the IPv4 address family. So address family IPv4 unicast. Okay, excellent. So now we've added in the loopback, we need to add in our interfaces. So gig 1 is going to be a level 1 interface. So let's do interface G 0/0/0/1, and we're going to do the address family as well, but we need to set the actual circuit type as well. So let's do the circuit type, and we'll do level 1, and the address family is going to IPv4 unicast. Okay. Now let's jump on to the interface that goes to PE22, which is gig 0. So interface G 0/0/0/0, and the circuit type. At this time, this is going to be a level 2 because you can't do a level 1 adjacency with a device in a different area. So level 2, and the address family is IPv4 unicast. And let's commit that. And let's have a look at our ISIS configuration. So we have our net statement, we have the global address family IPv4 unicast, we have our interface loopback 0. It's passive, so it won't attempt to try and form any neighborships on that. We've again added in the IPv4 unicast. Giga Ethernet 0, we've set that to level 2 with the address family, and Giga Ethernet 1, we've set that to level 1. Okay, so on CE1, there we go, we see that the neighborship has come up, so that's great. So let's jump on to PE22 now and see what we can do with this. So with PE22, we have gig 0 and gig 1, they are both level 2 connections, and it's in area 1. Okay, so let's get cracking with this one. So let's go here, conf t, and let's do router ISIS process 1. The process ID is only locally significant. So you can use any process ID you want. You don't have to keep the same one, but just when you're labbing, sometimes it's easier to just do that. And then we're going to do address family IPv4 unicast to enable it globally. And we're going to do interface loopback 0. It's going to be passive. Okay, that's fantastic. And we just need to add in the address family again. The address family IPv4 unicast. Brilliant. Okay, so we know that both Gig Ethernet 0 and Gig Ethernet 1 are both going to be level 2, so 0 and 1. So let's do interface G 0/0/0/0, and the circuit type is, sorry, level 2 rather, is going to be level 2, and the address family is going to be IPv4 unicast. Okay, and interface G 0/0/0/1, and the circuit type again is going to be level 2, and the address family is IPv4 unicast. Okay, let's commit that. All right, fantastic. Let's do a show ISIS neighbor, and we can see that we already have a neighborship with PE1. We can see that it's a level 2 neighborship, and that's exactly what we're expecting to see. So let's jump on to PE23. PE23 is an iOS XE router. So let's do so again, G1 and G2, they're both going to be level 2. So let's jump on to that. So we go enable, conf t, and let's do a router ISIS 1, and let's do a net statement of 49.0001 000 23 00. Okay, and let's do passive interface loopback 0. Okay, so that's the interface in. So we need to add in now the actual interfaces, the physical interfaces. And just before we do that, I just want to quickly check PE22 again, just to double check what I put down as the, okay, yeah, I put that down as the correct neighborship. No, that's fine. Brilliant stuff. Okay, so let's jump back on PE22 and let's get out of that, and let's go into interface G1 and ISIS type. Oops, wrong one. So let's put that back in again. So ISIS circuit type is level 2, and IP router ISIS process 1. Okay, and let's go on to interface G2, and we see we have our neighborship with P22 already, which is great. So G2, and it's going to be ISIS circuit type is going to be level 2, and IP router ISIS process 1. Okay, so that's PE22 done as well, and PE23 are both done. Brilliant. Okay, let's jump on to the next router and see what's going on with that one. Okay, we did see a neighborship come up on PE23, so it's possible I may have already configured this one. Let's have a look. All right, okay, so I have already enabled this, which is fine. I suppose it just keeps the router, the video for being exceptionally long. So again, exactly what we expect. So Giga Ethernet 2, we've set that to level 2, and we've also set Giga Ethernet 1, which is going to CE1 to level 1. We have our passive interface there, and we have our net statement, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so let's do a show ISIS neighbor and see what's happening with that. So we have our level 2 neighborship with PE23, which is exactly what we expect. Okay, in that case, let's jump on to CE4 and so show ISIS neighbor. You see nothing. Okay, show run section ISIS. Okay, so we have no ISIS in there. Let's set this one up then. So conf t, and let's go into router ISIS 1, and the net statement is going to be 49.000.000.000.000.44. There we go. All right, sweet. And let's do passive interface loopback 0. Okay, and now let's go on to our physical interface, which is G1, and set that neighborship up. Interface G1, and we do ISIS circuit type level 1, and IP router ISIS process ID 1. Okay, fantastic. And then we see we have our adjacency has now come up to PE4. Okay, so we've now done the first task. We need to do our show commands, but we've done the first task. We've set our individual area neighbors, our levels, and we've got the neighborships up and running. So what we need to do now is to use our show commands to see whether or not, you know, we have our neighborships up and whether, you know, we are actually learning a route. So let's jump on to, let's say, PE1, and let's do a show ISIS database. And because PE1 has a neighborship on the level 1 and a level 2, we have two different databases. We have a level 1 database and we have the level 2 database as well, and we can see the actual neighbors that we have on that. If we want to have a look at the details, which we can, and it will show us more detail of the actual level 1 and level 2 routes and neighborships that we're learning. It will show us, like for example here, we can see this here. This is IPv4, the 0xCC, so that's IPv4. We can see our area, you know, area 49, which is basically used as like a private instance. We can see that we're learning the, let's say, the 1111 address. We can see the metrics that is coming from, and you know, the interfaces that we're learning it from, and the hashes for the actual LSP updates itself. Okay, so there's a lot of information now. Okay, so the PE1's looking okay. Let's have a look at show root ISIS to see what we're learning. Okay, so we can see we've got the loopback of CE1, we have the loopback of CE2 under there, the loopback of PE4. So we're getting a lot of the loopbacks and a lot of the routes, so that's absolutely great. That's exactly what we expect to see. Let's have a look on PE22 now. Okay, let's do a show ISIS neighbor. Okay, so we have our two neighborships up and running. They're both level 2, which is what we want to see. Show route ISIS. Okay, again, we can see that we've got the loopbacks in there, so that's looking exceptionally good. Of good note here is that, for argument's sake, we have the loopback of like CE4 and PE4 in there. So CE4 is PE4. So we have the loopback, so everything's going great in that regard. Let's have a look on CE1, the iOS XR image. So CE1, that was this device here. We don't remember, this only has a level 1 adjacency with PE1. So let's have a look here. So let's do a enable show IP interface brief. So the loopback 111111, well, 4 ones. Okay, but we've seen that here, so that's been learnt on PE22. Show IP IP route ISIS, and it's been learnt as well on PE23. So even though the neighborship between CE1 and PE1 is level 1 only, PE1 has taken the level 1 routes and is propagated over to PE22 and PE23, and it will be propagated back over to PE4 as well. So that's the exact behavior we expect to see. However, what we was interested in was CE1. So let's have a look at CE1 and see what it knows. So let's do a show IP route ISIS. Okay, so the only route that it's learned through ISIS is the loopback of CE1 and the loopback of PE1. It's not learned anything else. It's not learned any of the level 2 routes. All it's learned is the level 1 routes. And this is a bit of a gotcha when you're dealing with, especially iOS XR, is that while it will take level 1 routes and propagate them into level 2, it doesn't do it the other way around. So we need to fix that. But that is for another episode, which will be coming up after this. We will jump back onto this topology and we will diagnose what's going on, why the end routers, the IOSXE routers that only have a level 1 adjacency are not receiving the level 2 routes, and we will fix that. And then once we've done that, we'll start adding in some more bits with ISIS. Like we might start adding some authentication and things like that to flesh it out a little bit before we then go on to our third outing, which will then be the likes of IPv6. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this quick video, and I'll see you in the next one.